Hi, welcome back to Driver 88. I hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a particularly special vlog for you guys, and it all starts with this car next to me, the Bugatti Veyron. Basically, this is the car where the terms hypercar came into our lexicon and used so often since this car was released. And since then, we've had the Holy Trinity, one of which sits just next door to me in the LAF, the P1 and the 918. And all those cars, even though they had extreme performance and they pushed technology so far forward at their time, what they were was quite usable. You fast forward today and the hypercars are two of such, the AMG One, the Aston Martin Valkyrie, pushing $3 million USD, and basically they're things that you can almost not use every day. They're very, very difficult to see out of. They're very, very difficult for most people to even fit in at all if you're over 6 foot. Today, if you want to buy a hypercar, is it even worth it? The question is going to be answered by a company called Tour de Force, because those cars are get as close as possible to an F1 car. The answer is, why not just buy one yourself? So as the title suggests, our friend Ferrari Collector Australia has bought a TDF-One, and we're going to explain to you what exactly a TDF-One is with Technical Director James, who is not only the Technical Director for TDF, but is also a Formula racer. We're going to reveal the car, and then next month we're going to be heading to the Bend to the shakedown at the very first track day with this F1 car. Now, James is going to explain a lot of different technical details, but we're also trying to get across to you guys is that this is no ordinary F1 car. It is basically all the benefits of experiencing this extreme, basically driving experience on the track, whilst having or not needing the enormous cost and amount of personnel that you usually would have to support an F1 car and take it on the track regularly. In fact, TDF tells me that you only need one person to take this car on the track. With the TDF-One, you can basically choose an F1 chassis for yourself from the past, and then TDF will put it to the exact specification that you like. In this case, as you'll see in a moment, this is completely bespoke the way that Ferrari Collector Australia has chosen.
We historically run a lot of original cars that are in full period correct, whether that be V10, V8, even earlier turbo era cars all the way back to the 50s. And what's apparent about a lot of them, especially as you get into the modern era stuff, is you need 20, 25 people to run a car, laptops and all the equipment to go with it, and 2 hours to preheat them, and that whole rigmarole that goes with it. And what we were looking to do was take a more modern era car and use as much of it as possible aerodynamically, try and keep it as correct as possible. Pirelli are a partner with us, so we could use Pirelli tyres, and then combine it with our own electronics and our own engine and gearbox and allow it to be usable for, I mean, usable is an interesting way of putting it, but make it usable that you can go to the circuit, have fun with it in the same way you can with a challenge car or a Trofeo car or any sort of track-related car, but at the ultimate level. So you get that Formula One experience in a genuine Formula One car, but without the hassle of needing a whole team with you and the huge cost that you need to run it for a day.
Yeah, and with this car, one-to-one, is that was that ever a goal at the start, was one-to-one, or was that just something that just came about?
No, it was never really a goal. What we looked at loads of different engine configurations, and what we could fit in under the bodywork was obviously a big piece of that. And then looking at a sensible power to weight, something that was drivable, something that was responsive. We could go more power with this engine, but then you run into other issues with turbo lag. We could go into bigger engines, and then you run into issues with packaging and the rest that goes with it. So this was kind of a nice compromise, and the power figure that we ended up at, we're capable of running between 450 and 600, which is mappable on the steering wheel, and that allows us, one, to coach drivers into a, from a lower level up without being like getting the full whack straight away. For us, being able to, we put not a warranty, but we give a package with each client that allows us to say, like, look, this will do 600 brake, it'll do it all day long, and you can really get involved with it and actually go and use the car and not be worried about using it.
And what about the gearbox with this particular car?
So gearbox is based off a Hewland unit, and it's a 6-speed paddle shift. Clutches are on the back of the steering wheel in the same way they are with F1, and it's super robust, deals with the torque really nicely, adjustable diff and all the other bits and pieces that go with it. So as all our clients progress with the car and they get more comfortable with it, we can start making the car a lot more aggressive in the way we're set up and start moving it back towards that peak performance. Generally what we do when the guys first get in, everything damping wise and suspension wise, we have tried to tone down ever so slightly, not far, just a little bit to make it approachable. And then from there we can really dial it down once you start to get some laps in, get comfortable with the car, because for a lot of people it's quite a big change.
Yeah, massive. What sort of downforce figures are we potentially talking?
I wouldn't like to throw any figures around.
Fair enough. It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And that crossover between mechanical grip, which is obviously really strong with what we're running, and that jump into the aero grip is quite high. And so trying to make that as seamless as possible without getting that window in the middle. Like when they're racing in period, they can be quite peaky in the middle and just pulling that peak away. But yeah, it's still generating huge downforce.
So how many custom cars have you delivered so far?
So this is the second one. We have one in the US. This one is here, and we have partners in the US with Agara and here with Zagami. We have another client car, which will be the third of the Mauritius, which goes into Europe a little bit later this year. And then we're working on some other pieces around the world. So we looked at motorsport a different way in that we wanted to reach out to these different areas here, Middle East, America, we're obviously core in the UK, and try and bring everybody together. And like we've all got a passion about it. I worked in F1 and trying to bring that to be accessible. Accessible is the wrong word because they're still quite expensive.
Far more accessible than what is...
Look, peering through the fence and absolutely.
And I mean, ultimately, physically, most people are not even going to be able to, handle that anyway. So you're matching the client, I guess, with the car is a big part of the challenge, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. And most people will, until they have started training a bit and understand the car, will run out of either neck strength or talent before they catch up with the car.
Yeah, neck strength I would be worrying about for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, it's quite hard on the neck. But being able to bring, this car here, Nigel's done an amazing job with the spec. He worked with our design team quite closely, and they've absolutely nailed it. And that's what we wanted to do. It's about bringing your own vision to it, and everybody can have their own details and. From small carbon touches and different paintwork, and that's the key for us. And you can go as crazy as you like with what we can offer on top, from just the car with the equipment and everything to race trucks and flight cases and obviously all the teamwear and.
Roughly with a weekend, say at the Bend or Phillip Island here in Australia, what sort of support? How many members of support would you have for a weekend generally?
You can run these cars with one person. So, for instance, we're going to shake this car down in a few days. I'll be sitting in it. So Dean, who's here, who's head of car build, he will be looking after it while I'm there. So between us, we'll sort of look our eyes over it during the day, but you can run it with one person. If you could strap yourself in, you could run it on your own.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's so many things that we've tried to tackle, even down to the braking. We've got our own composite material in there that is a carbon with a slight infusion, so it brings the operating temperatures down. So from about 450 up, we start to work really nicely, as opposed to 600-700 up. So again, for a client that's not used to a carbon brake, and it just makes that a little bit more usable. And so all those details we've really gone into. Things like the steering wheel, there's a lot of switches on there, but we've really dialed back and made it easier. And easy is the wrong word, but what we've tried to do is make it approachable. And I think the whole car from front to back, we're the guys at the team back home, we design, manufacture everything in-house, and everybody is F1 related. From myself, the team, the design team, manufacturing team, the
what sort of fuel will this run?
So it runs on a Sunoco fuel, which is off the shelf. It's called 260 GT. And it's quite highly oxygenated, runs with a bit of ethanol in there.
Okay.
It's nothing overly flash, but it just works really nicely with the turbo, and it's what we run with our engine partners, just mounting back in the UK.
Awesome. Thanks so much for telling us about this. It looks incredible. I can't wait to hear it run as well. And yeah. So that is the technical specifications out of the way there, and this thing just looks absolutely incredible. It's almost as if it isn't real. We can't wait to see this thing next month. As I said, we're going to take it on track to the Bend in Adelaide. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you were in a world where you could basically choose anything you want, would you say buy that $3 million Aston Martin Valkyrie or an AMG One, or would you have maybe a Hyper GT car and then one of these for the track where you get that most extreme F1 performance, F1 experience that is very, very hard to get, especially without having a huge F1 team supporting and doing all the maintenance and stuff like that. So really, really compelling product, very, very interesting. Can't wait to see it moving, and we'll see you next time.